It's Speaking with Gravity, and I'm Curvin.
I'm D.
I'm Ty.
I'm Joshua.
And we are hosts of a podcast that talk about mental health and how everything affects everything. With every episode, the goal is to have a conversation that will make you think, make you feel, make you do what is best for you. It's not therapy, it's a podcast. So I was about to say it's therapy. No, this is not therapy right here. Matter of fact, while we serve as mental health professionals, the information and content being discussed during our podcast is not intended to be utilized or substituted as therapy. The purpose of this broadcast is to share our personal perspectives through open dialogue about various content based on our personal, educational, and professional experience. So before we really kind of go into what we were supposed to talk about today, y'all were having a discussion about language, right?
Yeah.
Can't one Josh, Ty, somebody give me like where were y'all at? Like how did y'all even get there about this language thing?
I don't know how did we get? I know I was talking about tact, about using tact, but
we got there because just sharing factual information.
Factual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And maybe the context of it, but then we were just like, nah, the context was okay because it was facts, and then the two of them just started.
So somebody was giving facts to somebody else, and then go ahead.
Well, I said that the Greeks and Romans
on the previous episode. Yeah.
On the previous episode, you said
Greeks and
African.
Romans.
Oh, we love African culture and history. And that's proven record. I mean, it's factual information, and then we were just. The conversation kind of expanded into, yeah.
So, Josh, was you trying to say she shouldn't have said it?
No,
like
I thought that was dope. And in the last episode, y'all make sure y'all look at it because I don't know. Make sure y'all look at it. Last episode, I was encouraging her to say to go ahead and say that. Yeah, speak your truth. And I always I don't know how we got on the part about being tactful though. I don't know how we got on that though.
But you said that more than one time about being tactful.
About being tactful.
And that, see, even in being tactful, you've said more than one time you're considerate of other people's feelings or
Very
something?
considerate. I think D might have started saying, somebody started saying something, and I was like, that's true, but I'm also tactful too, or something like that. It was something like that. And so then D just jumped on me. Now I'm just playing. She didn't jump on me, but it is really important. Tell them D how important it is really for you to tell them what you were saying, D.
I think what we ultimately were discussing is how, in my opinion, because I can't speak for everyone else, in the African American community, we are the only community that has to continuously monitor our language, and we have to modify what we're saying for our intended audience ongoingly. And what I was saying to him is that sometimes when you're speaking the truth is just the truth. It is what it is. And sometimes I think the consciousness of always trying to be tactful really loses the message sometimes because you're trying to say it in the most political way. Well, sometimes everything doesn't have to be said politically, right? I'm not in that arena. Now, I think it's important to be attentive to our audience, but sometimes in communication, trying to sound good isn't always conveying the message that you're really needing to get across. Like, right, trying to address information by sweeping it under or beating around the bush. What are you really saying? Like, just get to the point. And I think in some conversations, we have to just get to the point and call it for what it is. And I think, I pick on it, Josh. I know the importance of being tactful, right? Because you have to know where you are and who you're communicating with. And again, I think in a certain environment, tactfulness is always important. But in some conversations, I'm not responsible if you are offended by my truth, right? And I'm not going to apologize for it being my truth, whether you agree or disagree with it. And I think because oftentimes if someone doesn't agree with it, that begins to negate my truth. And I see this a lot of times with people in general, like just because somebody didn't like what you said doesn't make it not your reality, right? Mm-hmm. Just because I say that racism exists and you don't like it doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist, right? It's the truth. And people don't like to talk about racism. They don't like to talk about race. They like to talk around it. But the truth of the matter, when you come to the way a lot of things exist and coexist in our society, is stemmed upon economics and racism. And we can't omit that. And the more we keep trying to talk around it, the more we keep ending up in the same space.
Yeah, the more it's there.
And I think part of what I was saying too was, you know, not going off of emotion, like not just speaking off of emotion, but using tact in that manner to where, you know, I'm really thoughtful about what I'm saying, you know. Like, and I was telling them about a situation I recently had with someone, you know, who was from another race, white guy, older white guy, you know, who I felt like was, you know, almost trying to put me in my place. So I had to put him in his place, but in a very professional way. So this person doesn't think, and not so that they think, but so that this person knows that I'm not, you know, that I am professional, that I'm not acting off of emotion, and that that I'm someone that's qualified to be there, you know. And I don't feel as though, you know, that's like a reaction really or anything to them feeling that way. I just feel like we might as well, in the beginning, let me go ahead and let you know who I am, you know. This is who I am, and I am a professional person, and I'm here. Part of why I'm here is because part of why I'm in business relations, is because, you know, I am a professional person, and, you know, you got to put some respect on my name.
But what I guess what I was saying is, what in the beginning ever alluded to the fact that you weren't professional, right? So just the way you present yourself is professional, right? So what would make someone see you as less than professional? And what I'm saying is, I'm not in a place of where I want to continuously confirm for someone else my professionalism. I just had this conversation with one of the people I work with, and it was just like, whether I have on a 3-piece suit or whether I have on a t-shirt and some jeans, I'm still as professional as I was in either decor. Like, it doesn't matter what I have on.
You
That's
can't
true,
deny
though.
that it's gonna send out a certain message.
It sends out
But-
a message,
Whether you in a 3-piece suit or a jogging suit. Now,
I think that's the problem with society.
No, that's not a problem.
It is a problem. Because I think that is a problem.
And
for
it
me.
depends on your
because
career,
people
too.
in 3-piece suits, people pay attention to, but most of the time, them are the most misinformed people ever.
Very much
They
so.
convey misinformation, and they play on language. And I feel like, what does what you have on tell me about you? Now, I'm not disagreeing for you. Presentation is important, but a lot in what avenue?
well,
okay,
all right,
I'll say in my role, if the more dressed up I am, it does send a message. It sends a message
to you or to other people.
to other people, and the way that I feel as though when I have my suit on, I don't know, I feel as though I carry myself a little bit differently. I just feel as though I do.
Now, I had that from Deion Sanders. Because you look good, you feel good, you work good or produce good or whatever, and he keep on going with it. So from that perspective, I like to be dressed up or dressed the way I want to be dressed in that moment, so that I can feel good and I can start conveying whatever I want to convey.
And I think that goes back to D point. If me wearing a t-shirt and jeans makes me feel good,
Gotcha.
then that doesn't determine whether or not I'm less professional, less intelligent, or more intelligent, you know, or more professional. But on the flip side, I do feel good when I dress up too. You know, I do. It just, and then the perception from other people or how other people view you, which, I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's like, there's a difference, you know, when I wear this versus when I wear that, when I speak this way versus when I speak this way. And I get what you're saying. It's like, I can speak this way, or I can enunciate every word and make sure I'm very articulate without the head and the hands,
Right.
and it still be the same. Like, I don't know, you know, but
And awareness can be a gift and I feel like awareness can be a gift and a curse, right? I was aware that this person, I was aware of what he thought about me, you know.
Emotional intelligence.
Right. I was emotionally aware. And I took that, and my response to that was simply, okay, I'm going to let you know who I am, you know. So That was my whole thing in us talking. So, but I did it in a professional way though, and so I used tact. I was raised, and my whole thing about it was coming up, I was raised, you can say anything you want to, anything on the planet you want to, as long as you say it with tact. You can say it, right? So I'm able to say, I feel like things that wouldn't be appropriate, I'm able to say it. If I say it in a tactful way, I feel like I can say it. And that's all I was saying. But here's my thing.
If something is inappropriate, no matter how tactful you is, it's still inappropriate.
Not inappropriate. I shouldn't have said inappropriate. I shouldn't have said inappropriate.
And I don't want you to think that I disagree with you, because I agree with you 100% in what you're saying. But I think what I'm saying is, we as a community, we always have to be conscious of how and what and where and why we say things. And when we say things, it's taken at true face value. But if someone else of a different ethnic group says the same thing, it was, they were joking, it was a playful conversation, it wasn't intended that way. Like, even in this, when people make statements that can be offensive, like we've seen it 100 times on these newscasts, where they are really saying what they really feel, and then they turn around and have to apologize for it. I didn't mean to offend you. But the truth of the matter is, you didn't have a problem with what you said. You only had a problem with it when someone else took offense to it. And what I'm saying to you is, speak your truth. If that's your truth, that's your truth. Own it. That's all I'm saying, is own what you're saying, how you said it. Because even if you apologize, it doesn't take away from you were speaking your real truth in that moment.
But I'm always going to speak my truth now.
So you it sounds like you saying if he's being tactful or calculated, he's not speaking his truth in that moment.
I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm saying in being tactful, make sure that he's speaking his truth. That's what I'm saying. That's what I say. We're not disagreeing in what we're saying. What I'm saying is, you can't always be tactful. Being tactful can't always be your primary focus, because in some essences, I can take offense to anything you say, no matter how tactful you say it.
Some people need to be tactful, though.
Right.
Some people need to be tactful.
I agree. You have, and that's why I said earlier, you have to be attentive to your audience. I'm not disagreeing with that, right? But and when it comes to language and communication, we've talked about this on previous episodes too. It's important. But I think when you are focused too much on being tactful, you may misconvey your message, focusing on being tactful. And I'm saying, don't omit your truth trying to be tactful. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's really important. That's really important. You can't miss the mark like that.
Right.
So you got to be thoughtful. You got to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I think we're agreeing. We're agreeing.
We right here now.
Yeah,
we definitely
always.
Right here.
One of the things that I got from you when you were talking earlier was speaking your truth and knowing your audience. And I think sometimes with this particular podcast, even I know myself personally, I can't speak for you. I am trying to be articulate, trying to be tactful, and maybe missing a point in trying to do that. The purpose of this the podcast is to reach the African American community, the Black community, and talk about mental health and how everything really do affect us. Having to decide on how I look, quote unquote, as a professional, how I talk, quote unquote, as a professional, and then all the other stuff we done talked about, leadership and boundaries and all the other stuff that we talk. Everything affects us, and we're trying to get that point across in this podcast. So, to your point, I'm gonna try to be just more natural.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Just get it off.
I'm gonna tell you this. You can always practice.
Yeah.
If you want to talk more, with more. If you want to pronounce your words better, if you want to articulate things in a certain way, go practice. You can, you could, and that can become your natural flow. That's not cheating yourself. That's not being yourself. But if you're in a setting where, if you're around the type of people where you need to talk like that, and it's better to get your point across like that, then practice talking like that. So that can naturally be you. You're not cheating yourself. You're still being yourself.
I think you are cheating yourself if you're doing it with the intentions of getting approval of others. So I think that's the separation.
I'm gonna say it like this. With me though, I feel like if I did that, I wouldn't feel like I'm cheating myself though.
I didn't say you were. I said if you're doing it
for the purpose of approval,
intent of gaining acceptance from someone else, then you are cheating yourself. And because then you're not walking in your truth. I am who I am. Now, does that mean I don't have the right to evolve and grow and do those things? No. I'm always working on improving myself. So if that means improving my communication, if that means improving my professionalism, how I dress, just the way in which I carry myself, that's true. But I'm going to do that for me. Right? I'm not doing it so that I can get approval from you. Yeah. Right? That's my truth. And I think what we as a society often do for people is we don't let people be in their truth. And there's such a freedom when you walk in your truth and when you embrace who you are. And for us as a culture, we are often told that being black and being who we are is wrong. And so I feel like when you're in a society that is constantly telling you who you are is wrong, then you're constantly trying to manifest who they want you to become, right? If you're putting on that 3-piece suit because it makes you feel good and that's what you wanted to wear, all by means, right? I'm not saying that doesn't portray professionalism. I get that. But what I'm saying to you is your value doesn't change if you're not in that 3-piece suit. And that's what I want people to understand. And I get that you say that you understand that, but there are a lot of people in our culture who don't. There are a lot of people who place value on how a person appears to be. And that's where we get this popularity idea, right? And that's where all of these other cultures come from. And there is so much that we miss focusing on the perception, what's being presented to us. That's how we are missing the mark. That's how we miss the messages that people are saying, because we're so focused on what we're seeing and what's being pushed in our face that we don't really realize what's going on behind closed doors, right? And so this is where I feel like you have to have that active listening ear. You were able to dissect or recognize or analyze that situation with that in that lawyer that you were communicating because you had an active ear, right? But there were some people who would have just took what he was saying at face value, right? It would have just been enough, and that would have been the end of the conversation. And what I'm saying is you have to be intentional, and you do have to have that level of self-awareness, and you do have to be in your truth so that you can recognize those moments and move forward, right?
Totally agree. I feel like some people equate, like even you was talking about being black. Some people equate being black or talking black to talking street.
Right.
So I feel like if you equate it to that, then you and your natural self, you're gonna feel like, I feel like that's a big misconception right there from the very beginning, you know? So if we're talking about speech, then we gotta get that one out the window too. That it's like being black is not just, I don't know. I feel like that's a big misconception out there. I know
being black is not one certain thing.
Right.
We're
it's not one certain thing.
It's a lot of things that encompass us as a community, as a people. So, you have to battle with that. But leading into what we're supposed to be talking about today, when you're talking about have these thoughts about constantly comparing yourself to what. Now, maybe I shouldn't say constantly comparing yourself, because I don't. But maybe somebody is at that stage where they're constantly comparing themselves to what people want them to be, what you should be as an American, what you should be as a South Carolinian, or wherever you live, Georgia or something like that. But you have to take time for self-care. Ty, you say this all the time. Sit with yourself.
That was just
really sit with yourself, and that kind of goes into our current episode, the beauty and the beast of self-care. You got to do it. You got to do it to really check yourself to say, as she said, am I doing this for the approval, or am I doing it to get the point across?
For sure.
One of the Twitter discussions, we're just gonna kind of free flow this one, but the Twitter discussion that we had out here is treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. And when I think about it like that, right, treat myself like I would treat my son, treat myself like I would treat my wife. I'm not going to allow certain things to come to them if I can. All right? I'm going to try to protect them at all costs. Why wouldn't I do that for my own self? To your point of, practicing. If you want to speak a certain way, be articulate in a certain manner. But why not you just take me for what I am? What I'm, as D say, what I'm saying is true. Is it or is it not true? You gonna take it how I'm gonna give it to you. or we don't have to do business together. We don't have to entertain each other, if that's the case. And you do get tired. I feel like the older you get, the more tired you get. You get tired of trying to fit in this certain, I don't know if I want to say box, but just fit into whatever society or whatever people are creating for what you're doing in that moment, whether that be a position, whether that be your color, your space that you're in that moment. You get tired of just fitting into it. Nah, man, I'm just going to do me. Within the confines of the rules or regulations or whatever it is, but I'm gonna do me. But I don't know. I just had to throw that.
Do
out
me
there.
within the confines of. You said what?
Like so, I'm gonna use the sports analogy. You know, you got football, you got basketball. There's still gonna be rules and regulations. You can't just ignore the rules. You still gotta be within the rules. But I ain't gotta dribble the same way you gotta dribble. I ain't gotta shoot the same shot that you shooting. You know, that's how we got to the NBA where it is today. Somebody being creative within the rules that were placed. Somebody being creative on how they did their handles, how they shot. I mean, Stephen Curry done changed the whole game. The shots that he take now, that was taboo when I was coming up in high school. 4 or 5 feet behind the 3-point yard arc. And now that's just regular for people. They just pop up. Just I normally make this shot, so I'm gonna pop up, post up right here, and I'm gonna make this shot. So, you know, kind of creating your own lane within the confines of the rules and regulations, because there's still laws.
You still having to adjust to be within the confines of the.
You're gonna always have to
adjust.
Adjust. You're gonna always have to adjust, but that adjustment that you're adjusting to is because you chose to play that game.
You chose to be in there, right.
So if I want to be a part of society and not be behind bars, then I'm gonna obey the laws.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna adjust within what y'all put out there for me. And if I feel like those laws are unfair, then we go and change them. They go back to our last episode about leadership. That's when we need to take out that leadership role and say, all right, well, let me get into good trouble. Let me change this because, you know, this is unnecessary. You know, we don't need this, but change it and not just do it just for the sake, not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling. All right.
I can dig it.
All right. QD of the hour.
QD of the hour, another version of fun facts, information for you to be able to share with your family, friends, colleagues, church members. In a national survey, Americans cited benefits of self-care as enhanced self-confidence, increased productivity and happiness. 71% of Americans believe society will collectively prioritize self-care over the next 5 years due to the events of the pandemic in 2020. This survey was completed in December of 2020 and included responses from more than 2,000 Americans online.
Was the pandemic that powerful? For real? For real?
I think for some people it was. It really was. I don't know. I maybe I shouldn't say this. I liked it.
You like the pandemic?
Yeah.
You like the... Explain that for us, please.
This not the pandemic itself, not the illnesses, not people dying.
Of course.
Not the families that were affected because they lost a loved one. I lost an aunt. So that was difficult. What I did like was the realignment that we've done as a society. You know, it was always busy, work, 9 to 5, 8 to 6, you know, working 12, 14, 15 hours, focusing on what I can do from the money that I make from that 12, 14, 15 hours. And I think there's been a shift where people are more in tune with what I do with my time as opposed to how much money I make and what I can get with the money I make.
For sure.
Not to say that the materialism isn't still out there, because there's still stuff that I want, but the focus have shifted to me on time and what I do on this earth and how I spend moments. It's big for me that I was okay with chilling at the house and watching the kids grow up. I didn't get, you know, I was cool with the family life. But, you know, prior to that, it's like work. They need this, they need that. Okay, maybe they need my time too.
For sure.
So that's why I say I liked it.
Yeah.
It gave me a chance to really look at that, and maybe some other people too.
And companies have had to change like their whole way of doing business and how they communicate with their people. It's like everything moved like so quickly. Everything's progressed so quickly in the last century, like in the 20th century. It's like that was an unfortunate break, because like you said, we did lose a lot of lives, but it was a break. It was like a pause, and everybody's having to kind of rethink things, and so I agree from that perspective. Yeah.
All right, D, can you read that? It's on the screen. Is it too small for you?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So even with the COVID-19 pandemic behind us, a new normal has created a greater need to prioritize self-care. Self-care is inclusive of nutrition, stress reduction, and exercise to help keep a person happy, healthy, and resilient. Practicing self-care isn't always easy, but we must find time to carve out space to address ourselves.
All right. Oh yeah, you were supposed to ask D a question about self-care. You got anything for
What does it look like, D? What does self-care look like? Baby girl, come on, man, hit me
you
with
don't-
something now.
You don't do it?
I'm throwing you the pass. Catch it and run with it. I know you got something for me now.
You don't do it?
Do I what?
Do self-care.
I definitely engage in self-care.
What it look like to you?
So yeah, I'm gonna get y'all.
Hold on. I just asked you that.
Yeah, they
I just
did.
asked you that, and you didn't want to answer it. But then
No,
when Kervin asked you that,
I did want to answer it, but I had to regulate because I wanted to be tactful when I responded.
I love it. Well, look
Right?
at me.
So
Don't
I
look at
didn't
Kervin
wanna-
when you answer
I
this,
didn't
because I
wanna
want
come
to feel.
off and it be offensive. I wanted to be tactful with my communication, and now after having a few moments to reflect, I am able to proceed and answer the question as you all presented it to me.
It's just real nice, nasty. Just then.
Real
But y'all, I have to reflect though. Like I have, cause when I don't reflect and I just jump out the hip, y'all, I'm not using wisdom. That's how I feel. Like I have to, that's me though. Some people can just come off the hip with it, And you a person I've seen do very well coming off the hip. I like to kind of.
But I've already reflected.
See,
yeah.
yeah. So my reflection is different.
Just
so,
the way in. And
But we here though.
We
so,
are.
yeah.
See, I'm not this. I'm telling you. For me, self-care is really being able to spend time with myself, and I know that's like, well, that's what self-care is. But for me, as a single mother, my day is pretty much set up. What I'm gonna be doing, working 40 hours a week, coming home, getting him, helping with homework, bathing, and that's just 7 days a week, and it's just going. So self-care for me is when I can really take moments to indulge by myself. Sometimes, it may be, I can't even say, some people say going out to eat, I can't say that because that's a daily. But it's just me really thinking about, for me, self-care is more personal. So it's not really what I can do to take care of myself, but it's me of how can I grow myself. Like that is really how I care about myself in this space that I'm in right now of my life. How am I growing daily? So it's me processing, how am I becoming a better mother? How am I becoming a better person? Where am I wanting to go within my career? Where am I wanting to go in how I see and value and interact with family and friends? For me, that matters to me, because for me, that's what the pandemic taught me, is that you can be too busy and you can miss some of the most important things of your life. And I, as an advocate for mental health, I know a lot of what we do, there is a lot of physical and, we have to do everything, but the mental and being in a space where I'm able to protect my mental health is so important to me, because I have seen that me being able to protect my mental health allows me to be more productive, right? Me being able to protect my mental health is me really getting more conscious about my physical health as well. In the setting that I am, I talk to Taisha often about, this is something that I need to improve on, and coming into awareness, there's something that's not connected here, right? There's a problem, but being in a mental space to recognize that and not just saying, oh, well, this is how I am, right? And I think that's what you're talking about when we talk. I know it's kind of different, but getting into that space of, I need to improve me. And that is what self-care means for me, is what do I need to do to improve me? For some people, it may be nutrition. But if you're already a person that eat healthy and that's just who you are as a person, nutrition may not be an emphasis of self-care for you, right? That's just what you do. But for me, or it may be, it's just for me, it's hard to explain because I'm still gaining knowledge of the proper ways to care for myself. And so one of my primary focuses right now is the mental aspect, the relationship aspect, who I'm connected to and who I allow to connect to me. That's another aspect. Like, I remember there were relationships that I've had to cut off. You know what I'm saying? Friendships that I've been okay with us not talking like we used to. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Me not trying to force relationships with, partners or whomever else. It's just like, I'm okay with that. And that's part of me caring for myself. So that's just where I am right now. And that's what self-care looks like for me.
Was I one of those people that you cut off?
You still sitting beside me. So obviously right now,
Because you said you talk to Taisha often. And my phone don't ring with your name attached to it.
You're also a married man, and so there's boundaries in how I communicate with you as a person. But
you could text and say, "Man, you good?"
Yeah, you still boundaries.
Okay.
Sounds like he needs that from you.
From time to time.
Okay, I hear you now. See, I didn't get that message. I appreciate you because I didn't get that, but I got you.
He was being tactful.
He was being very tactful.
But when you were saying
y'all are plenty.
when you were saying about for you, self-care is kind of like growth. It's a little bit the opposite from me. I need to slow down and enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride. Somebody told me that years ago in my aspirations, trying to get ahead. You get out of college, get your little first job, second job, and you're thinking about trying to climb that ladder. I'm going to management, and then once I go into management, I'm gonna be a director, and so on and so forth. And it's like, hey, enjoy the journey. I'm like, you just telling me this because you're not trying to give me that position that I want right now. But fast forward years later, I really should enjoy that time. I should enjoy learning and figuring out things and overcoming certain obstacles and just reflecting. And slowing down and reflecting on the things that I have accomplished is something that I really have to put into practice. And when I do, that is self-care for me. So
it can be it can look different on your journey.
Yeah.
You could be in a place one day you could be in a place where where you have to slow down. Other times you can be in a place where you need to grow. Other times you may just need to respect yourself a little more. Create boundaries, like you say, with yourself. And it can look different on your journey. It's about paying attention to yourself. And that's another form of self-love right there.
Paying attention
self-care.
to yourself.
It's paying attention to yourself, how you feel.
Don't you do that in yoga?
Huh?
Don't you do that in yoga?
You do that in yoga.
Pay attention to yourself?
It's a good segue because we got a yoga instructor right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Do you feel like yoga is you feel like it's I won't say a path to self-love, but is it I guess it's a healthy way of promoting self-love?
Yeah,
what do you feel about the connection between the two, self-care, self-love, and that
the
practice?
connection between the two.
Self-love and the practice of yoga.
For me, just the philosophy, if one chooses to follow the philosophy of yoga, it's not even just showing up on the mat when you are there, mini yoga mat, just to engage in the whatever you're seeking to receive. But, here in the West, I think oftentimes we associate yoga with just doing the physical postures that people typically see. But it's also showing up for yourself off the mat, being able to find stillness, being able to let go of any attachments outside of you showing up and being present for yourself in that moment in time. So again, being able to implement those things off the mat in my everyday, life. How am I showing up for myself? How am I perceiving things? How am I being intentional about the things that I strive to obtain? How am I showing up for others, and doing it in a graceful, non-judgmental way, operating from a place of love. So yeah, and I always talk about breathing, the importance of breathing and finding stillness. You will physically feel the changes, or you will experience the physical changes within your body once you just start to connect the breath and get in tune with self. Yeah.
When you was talking about breathing, that also you did not say this, but it made me. It took me to, you have mentioned this before, the gut. Is that connected with breathing? Or is that something totally different?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every part of the body is connected to the
connected,
gut.
okay.
And the brain health, there is some connection there. I can't elaborate in full details, but yeah, oftentimes we get that gut feeling or the instinct to do things. There is a connection there, a scientific breakdown. You guys just do your research on it. But yeah.
So, last question before we kind of end it, but do y'all think our culture do they understand self-care, open to self-care? I definitely think we're open to it. I don't always think that we understand it. I'm talking about self-care with me slowing down. She was talking about growth. I see a lot of people be going on vacations, going to day parties, and not
labeling that as self-care.
Yeah, they say that's self-care. I can't say it ain't.
I got a question on that, boy.
Go ahead.
The answer the question, or the answer the question with a question.
It's like you got the question, you have a sub question kind of that falls up under that.
Go ahead with your.
So
Sub-question.
like you were saying, a lot of people equate self-love, self-care with a lot of different things. I've seen people equate it with sex.
Huh?
I've seen people equate it with sex.
I think you just trying to find a way to bring that into an episode.
I'm not at all. You trying to find a way to get me back for the last episode. But anyway, my question is promiscuity self-care?
No, it's not. I can't see in no way, shape, form, or fashion that it's self-care. It could be something that you want to do. It could be something that you learn from. But self-care?
I don't really think so either.
Because I've seen people like just on social media, like when a woman is, say she just got a relationship or something, and she's, I see women vouching for her, involving herself with a lot of men. I've seen that, involving herself with a lot of men sexually.
You say you see other women vouching for her,
saying that's she just like loving herself.
Nah, that's with all due respect to the women that are at the table. That's them being in the defense mechanism. They defending her just for the sake of defending her in that moment.
And I don't see that as a form of self-care. Personally, I don't.
But I mean, that goes back to what you were saying about people confusing self-care, self-love for as something else.
You do what you do. Yeah. If that's what you want to do, but don't.
But that's what I'm saying. Like them doing what they want to do. Like people look at that as, she's self-care.
This goes to go back to the beginning of it, right? The beginning topic when D said sometimes you just got to tell the truth. Ain't no self-care. Ain't no. I want to say the H word so bad. Ain't no self-care in promiscuity. Is that just how
promiscuity?
I say it right?
Yeah.
But I really want to say the H word. WH.
The W.
I knew it as the HO word, but not. And there's no self-care in that. It is what it is, because that's really. You're adding body count. You're connecting yourself with different souls. Then physically, the more people you're engaging with, it's just not good for your body in general. Now, that being said, people do what they want to do.
I'm telling you, look, I was talking to a chick. She was trying to put me on her homegirl, and she was like,
"Did you go?"
And she was like, "No, I went. Nah, like a chick who's a friend of mine. She was trying to put me on a homegirl, and she was basically like, y'all can have fun, because I was saying, I don't know, I see how she carry herself. I don't know if I'd be interested in her like that. And because I know how she carries herself, she was like, y'all just try it out. Y'all probably have fun. She after y'all talk a little bit, she'll let you hit it. It's basically, what she was saying. And what she said was
it's TMI, Josh.
And what she's saying, right. And what she was saying was
You're right, and he keep going.
They keep on going.
what she was saying was, she like to have fun. She
Yeah, but that's having fun. That's not self-care.
Yeah.
I feel like people get it confused, but I feel like you broke it down though in a way that that's saying don't get it confused, basically.
And self-care can be fun, but if it's at any point detrimental to you, then it's no longer self-care. If it at any point I ain't gonna say can be, because going out and having a good time with your friends can be if you did it on a consistent basis, right? Every day. It can be detrimental. But if you stop it before then, you're okay. You can't really stop a connecting of souls, like you just add a number after number. There's no way.
So it's kind of like
Promiscuity.
you gotta be wary of what you get yourself into with anything. But
So to go back to your
you gotta be
question,
wary.
the original question, not the sub
about
question.
the
Nah,
culture,
we good.
the culture thing.
What was the question?
I think I said, how do our culture, do they understand it, and are they more accepting of self-care? I think is what I was trying to ask.
What do you think?
You gonna say to go back to my question like you was finna answer it and then put it back
she just
on
wanted
me.
to get away from my question.
I mean, no.
As far as I do think we as a society, if I go back to
took
as
my
a
last
society,
minute.
we
You got another one.
as a society we are more accepting of self-care, but I don't think we always understand it, and that's something too. I was going to ask you this question about yoga, but the reason why I say therapy is good is because you hear a lot of good things from time to time on social media. You have this therapist or this mental health advocate sharing various things, and it really is good in general, but is it good for you? And when you have that personal relationship with or therapeutic alliance with a therapist, then y'all can discuss that. Y'all can process that. Okay, what does self-care look like for me?
For me,
Again, me and Dee gave basically two different things, but it's still the same thing. She more focusing on growth and being in tune into what she lets resonate with her. And mine is more focused at this moment, resting, slowing down, and being mindful of where I'm at, my past accomplishments, and so on and so forth.
That's what I was going to say too. I think it's important. I always say this, which both of you sharing. I feel like you both had to find stillness in order to figure out what self-care looked like for you both. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that we can all benefit from, being able to find stillness. So if we're asking these things, allowing those things to come to us, intuitively, did I use that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Good job.
first time I heard that laugh,
Yeah. It slipped out on her.
Oh gosh. But really, just being able to find stillness. So if that's 5 minutes a day for yourself, 2 minutes a day if you're in the bathroom, if you have children or family, sometimes it's hard to find 5 minutes for yourself, but I would encourage everyone to make that time for yourself. Just set a timer, and if you're just sitting there having various thoughts, it's okay. They're going to float away. They may come back, but just being able to be present in that moment in time.
And I think y'all printed out too on one of the, I said printed out, Lord forgive me, because ain't nothing been printed. But on one of the previous episodes, one of the guest speakers that you had talked about the power of having conversation with self and being able to really talk to you, because no one knows you like you know you, right? And I think it's where you kind of pull all these different aspects that we've talked about in your life when it comes to knowing your truth, implementing boundaries, right? Self-reflection, self-accountability. All of those things encompass self-care. And that's what self-care looks like. Being able to pull all those things into who you are as a person. Emotional intelligence. Like, it's not just this running the bath water. Yeah, that's gonna cleanse you. Yeah, that's gonna relax your muscles.
Good old bubble bath.
But that ain't really, when you really talking about how does that improve your quality of life, it don't. You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to it, like I said, going on vacations, that's good because it gives you exposure. But if you don't do anything with that exposure, it doesn't improve your quality of life. And so that's kind of what self-care is in forms of me now. It's like, what am I doing that's improving my quality of life? Because that's the only thing that I'm accountable for. And that life is this is the only one I have, right?
Yeah.
And the life I live is gonna be beneficial to my son. It's gonna be beneficial to my siblings because it may open up avenues. It may create ideas. It may shift the way in which they see life for themselves. And that, to me, is how we be successful with this notion of self-care.
And even as you were talking, I was thinking about self-care is also different based on what you're facing in that moment.
Right.
Right. Resilience is a part of all of that, right? So you got to build your resilience, and you got to be able to persevere. And if you're adding stuff to you, you know, in my role as a therapist, things are being brought to me. I'm holding it. I'm dealing with it. I'm adding on to some things that I wouldn't normally have, and so my self-care is going to look a little bit different too. And people that I surround myself with, I think it's one of y'all said that earlier. The people you're surrounding yourself with can help as well. You had something, Josh?
Nah, man, I couldn't hear nothing you said. That bedroom voice again. I'm telling y'all, that boy is.
Subscribe to Speaking with Gravity on Facebook and Instagram. We'll make it easy for you. Put it in the show notes. The event needs. Check out 61 Rentals, CodeAtReadyConsultant.com. If you need help with consultation and therapy, check her out on that website.
Correction, I am not providing therapy.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Correction, I do consultation services.
Break it
At
down.
the moment.
Okay.
When he tried to talk loud, he messed up.
Check out gravitycounselgroup.com and check out what we're doing over there. Shout out to Mr. Winston for holding it down on the audio and the visual production. Check him out on winstonjstewart.com. By the time that this episode come out, you will have missed his first art gallery.
Let's go.
He got a couple more coming, so just keep a lookout on his website for the things that he got coming up in 2023. All right, Josh, I'm gonna let you go ahead and have your moment.
I appreciate it. He's ain't gonna let me have my moment.
Yeah,
It's your moment.
you got 15 seconds.
Yeah, check out. So on YouTube, Joshua Garvey Williams. Check out our show on there. We talk to random folks. It's crazy. We go out, talk to random folks. We ask them these really thought-provoking questions. The whole idea of it is to make people reflect. Y'all would not believe the responses that we get from people on questions like, where do you get your peace from? On questions like, what's the importance of your perspective? What's the greatest gift you can give a child? The responses that you hear, on these questions are just really thought-provoking. And that's what we inspire to do, is to create a culture, a culture shift. People who really are thoughtful in in how we address the world.
Thank you all for taking the time to listen. You could be doing anything in the world, but you chose to listen to us, and we appreciate that. This ain't therapy. This isn't therapy. It's a podcast.
Let's go.